John Warkentin here from Michael's Camera. Today we've got the Blackmagic Web Presenter and the Teranex Mini Smart Panel. Now, unfortunately, we've already opened these boxes, but I'm going to simulate a box opening. There's not a heck of a lot in the boxes here, but let's cut to the chase and show you what's in them and what makes them so special. So, first order of business, you get your appropriate country's power cable when you buy these. The power cable's not in the box, but that's a standard IEC 3-conductor grounded power input cable. So let's just put that aside. We'll put our Teranex Mini Smart Panel aside, and let's open up the Web Presenter box. Now, the Web Presenter is a unique little product because it enables you to connect industry standard HDMI or SDI cameras, or one of each, and feed that video signal into a standard computer's USB 2 port through a USB-B printer style cable, and the Web Presenter then presents itself as a webcam. So everything just works with all software. Any computer, any software that can talk to a webcam will work with the Web Presenter, and you get to use high-end quality cameras. So inside the box, we've got our little plastic tray here, and inside that is our welcome paperwork, I guess, which is a little welcome message, and the Web Presenter software, or well, it's really not software, a user manual, is on a little SD card in here. So that gives you what you need. If you need to do any firmware updates, you just go over to the Blackmagic website, and it's very easy, and I'll show you where you plug in to do a firmware update. So let's just pop the Web Presenter out of the package here. So it's a small 1U rack style height box, and it's 1/3 U wide. So 3 of these together would be a 19-inch rack. The Web Presenter on its own without the Teranex Mini Smart Panel is just a very basic front panel, and there's a little rubber port here which enables you to get at the USB port to do firmware updates. Now on the back of the Web Presenter, we've got our power input here, 3-conductor, which is where our cable plugs in, obviously. And then we've got our various inputs. Now I'll just hold it over here so the overhead camera can see. So we have our USB-B format. It's like a printer cable, so that plugs in. So that's how the Web Presenter is seen by the computer. Then we have on the far right-hand side here, we've got a mic input, which is standard XLR, professional mic connector. Then we've got consumer inputs here, left and right, RCA for stereo. Then we've got our HDMI. So at the bottom, we have the HDMI in, so any standard HDMI camera, any resolution, right on up to 4K this thing can handle. And then it'll down-res that into a standard streaming format, variable frame rate based on the bandwidth that's available. That's rather interesting how this works, for 720p. 720p is basically the resolution you want to stream at because that uses your bandwidth most effectively. More users can see it. It's the limit of Facebook. YouTube can stream at 1080p, but the Web Presenter is designed for a 720, and I think that really is the best standard. So HDMI in, and just above that is an HDMI out loop port. So whenever you feed to the HDMI in, it comes right back out. So if you want to have multiple Web Presenters, you could daisy chain multiple units. One could be streaming to YouTube, one could be streaming to Facebook, another one could be streaming to Periscope, Twitch, whatever. So that's on our HDMI side. Then to the left of that, we have, well, the far left, we've got the SDI input. So that's a BNC style connector, and that's what most professional video cameras are running these days. So we have their input, and then again we have a loop output, so whatever goes on the in comes right back on the out. Then above that we have the program output. Now the program output's a little bit different than the loop because that program can be the switched version between the 2 separate inputs. And that's where the Teranex Mini Smart Panel comes in, because it gives you the ability to switch with this device between 2 cameras, with the condition being one is using HDMI and the other is using SDI. Then lastly, of course, that USB output, which is the same program, and that's what it feeds to the computer. So if you wanted to record your switched output, you could then hook up a HyperDeck recorder, another Blackmagic device, to the SDI program output, and then what your two camera project could then be recorded. So that's basically what the Web Presenter does. Lastly, there's a little Ziploc bag here with some rubber feet. So if you're not going to rack mount it and you want to put it on your desk, you can just put the rubber feet on the bottom. So let's get into the Teranex Mini Smart Panel. So that's where we get our advanced functions. So on the Smart Panel, it gives us the buttons so that we can switch between the 2 inputs. as well as monitor them with the little video screen it's got. So now it's an anti-static bag because it's an electronic device. And there we have it. I'll hold it right side up. So we've got our little control knob here for selecting things from the menus. And we have an LCD screen. We have our input 1 and our input 2. And the audio switching system, because of course we've got multiple audio inputs, how we can mix and set levels and everything. And of course the set button. Again, there's a little door here to enable us to get through to the USB port on the front panel of the Web Presenter. So how do we attach this to that? Well, luckily, there are some instructions here on the little box. Step 1, remove the 2 screws on each side. Step 2, plug in the Teranex Mini Smart Panel, and then put the screws back in. Very simple. Let's do it. 1 screwdriver, not even a fancy one, just a universal screwdriver. And we'll just undo the screws. Put them aside. All 4 screws are the same, so you don't need to worry about getting them mixed up. Just a standard Phillips head on them. So luckily this does not require any technical expertise. I guess the question you might want to ask is why would you want the Web Presenter without the Smart Panel? Well, you can save a few dollars, and if all you're going to do is be taking 1 input and streaming to 1 output, and you don't need any advanced controls, you can save the purchase price of the Smart Panel. So in Australian dollars, the Web Presenter is $729, and the Smart Panel is $135. So you save yourself $135. So behind the little plastic faceplate, as you can see here, there's a dip switch here for various setups. We're not going to mess with that. You can see the USB mini port here, which is where you do your firmware updates. And then there's a little printed circuit board here with some contacts on it on both sides, and that's how it's going to communicate with the Smart Panel. So as you can see here, this connector is going to line up with that. So we just basically place this in here, line it up, firmly press down. We don't need to worry about that little door, just press that in, and put the 4 screws back in. Now, one thing worth noting, the Web Presenter does not have an on-off power switch. So you're going to want to power it up at the line. So you might want to use a switched power bar, or if you've got it in a rack, you might want to have all your power in your rack, switchable with another, off the line in another area, or switched, however you want to do it. Just to keep these things cost effective, Blackmagic decided to not put power switches on them. So there we go. So when you're actually using this and you've got it all set up, you basically can just press for channel 1 and you'll be running that feed through, and you'll see your feed on the LCD display here. And then when you want to switch over to channel 2, you just press 2 and it'll do a nice smooth video transition over to the second camera. So that's a pretty amazing feature in an affordable box, that this is a 2-channel video switcher and the streamer all in one. Very well made, tough little box, and very affordable. So we use it at Michael's Camera when we're doing our live streams. We've also got it in our system in conjunction with an 8-input switcher called the Blackmagic Television Studio. And we also use one of their recorders, which is the HyperDeck, I believe it's the Mini. It records to SD cards. It's in the exact same form factor as this, and that enables us to record our programs simultaneously while we're streaming them, so that if we want to then put them up on YouTube afterwards. We normally stream to Facebook. We feel that's pretty well the best platform for live streaming right now. So hopefully you enjoyed our very simple little introduction to the Blackmagic Web Presenter. And I guess the other reason I should just explain here at the end here, the reason why I wanted to open the boxes is we're putting this device into the hire department. So if you've got some streaming needs and you maybe only need to do it once or twice and you don't feel like it's time to purchase, you can just hire it from us, and we'll get you set up with some cameras like our Panasonic PV100s that we're currently using. Very affordable and easy to use camera, perfectly, mates perfectly with the Web Presenter, and you're away to the races. Now, one other thing we need to bring up here just before we end our discussion, because the Web Presenter uses SDI inputs for one of the camera and HDMI for the other, if both of your cameras our, say, HDMI output, like our PV100 Panasonics here, you're going to need to take the HDMI output of one of your cameras and convert it to SDI. And Blackmagic's got you covered with a very affordable little product. It's $135, and it's called the Blackmagic Microconverters, and they come in two flavors. You can either convert HDMI to SDI, or you can go the other way around. So if you need to take two SDI cameras and use it with the web presenter, one of them you're going to convert from SDI to HDMI to go into the second input. Or if you want to use two HDMI cameras, you convert one of the HDMIs to SDI. And they're a very small little gray box. I wish I could show you one in my hand, but I can point to one above my head over here on my boom overhead camera. So we're currently taking the HDMI output from that camera, converting it to SDI, feeding it over to the other side of the room where we're running the Blackmagic ATEM television studio 8 input switcher. But basically, the web presenter is the baby brother. So if you only need two cameras, then this is the one to go for. It's very, very simple, it's very affordable, and it is a perfect tool for web streaming and a simple two-camera production. So hopefully that gave you a good introduction, and you're as excited about all the Blackmagic stuff as we are. We love using it here. It's been a very, very good set of tools for our television broadcasts here at Michael's Camera. And if you need to hire the web presenter, come and see us at the hire department. I'll put the link to the product in the description of the video. Take care, and we'll see you next time.